Blockchain is an industry that never sleeps. Investing in cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and developing gaming finance projects such as GameFi are growing opportunities for this sector. It's easy to find ordinary young people who have become billionaires within a few years, and companies whose growth is based on investments in virtual assets. How can we stay on top of the developments in this rapidly evolving field? This talk features Mr. Tony Tong, co-chairman of the Hong Kong Blockchain Association, who will discuss the latest trends in blockchain as well as its future outlook.
It is my pleasure to be here to share with the students here at the Hong Kong Metropolitan University. As you can see on my introductory slide, a little bit about myself. Back in 1990s, I did a lot of database programming. That's when the internet first came out. I was one of the earliest to make it a programmable internet website. Because when Yahoo first introduced their products, the internet was a static website. And we started programming. We were one of the earliest companies that started programming, including using CoFusion and WebPlus. And actually, the co-founder of CoFusion, Jeremiah Lair, and I started working on CoFusion back in 1993, 1994. Recently, he's moved also into blockchain, and Jeremiah Lair is a very famous guy nowadays because he's the founder of Circle.com and the company behind USDC, which is a leading stable coin that's approved by the US New York State. We have a lot to share. You can see that I have my internet patent. That's from 2000 when I did a lot of programming. And we did a lot of dynamic website generation and database-driven websites. So we started making a static HTML website, and we made it dynamic and programmable. So if we look at today's blockchain and smart contract, that's what we did back in the 90s, but it was a centralized version. When the internet first came out, it's supposed to be a decentralized internet to survive even nuclear attacks. So many servers, many nodes will reroute the data. And then eventually the internet became more and more centralized as the internet giants became more and more powerful, such as Facebook, Google, and Amazon. They became more powerful. So, and then blockchain came out, and blockchain became the decentralized technology, and that made the internet much different from the internet back in version 1.0. Today, we're going to cover some of the latest trends in blockchain from the first blockchain crypto, which is Bitcoin, to smart contracts, Ethereum, security tokens, STO, which is security token offering, DeFi, decentralized finance, DEX, which is DEX, decentralized exchange, NFT, Metaverse, GameFi, exchange-traded funds, ETF, FinTech, and various government regulations in the US and Hong Kong. So there's a lot of topics to cover, so I'm not going to be able to cover really deep, but we're going to cover very broad. Facebook just renamed itself Meta, which is really the topic for the blockchain, the latest development for the last few weeks. And from the announcement to his 3D video, the virtual reality, augmented reality video, and to the final announcement of Meta, I think it signifies the direction of internet, entertainment, social networks will all eventually merge from the physical world into the virtual world with Metaverse. So security token offering, the technology and the regulations have been around for a few years, and there have been a few successful STOs regulated by the SEC in Hong Kong. Earlier this year, Hong Kong also actually came out and listed the first security token offering that's approved by the SFC. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But maybe I'll start a little bit about STO. 3 years ago in Colorado in the US, there's a 5-star hotel called St. Regis in Aspen, Colorado. And they filed for an IPO, but later they changed their mind. And instead, under the US Securities Exchange Commission Regulation D, they filed for a security token offering. And that became the first real estate-based security token that's approved by the regulator. So that STO is called Aspen Coin, ASPD, and it raised $18 million. It's hard to compare STOs with the other well-known coins or tokens because STOs are primarily backed by stocks or real estate or some hard assets. And it's very hard to imagine these hard assets to go up 10, 20, even 100 times. So most of the time we talk about cryptocurrency that go up tens of times or even hundreds of times, such as recently Axie Infinity, AXS. And we have seen a lot of this blockchain industry and crypto space have really made a lot of people very, very wealthy. Young graduates, young people in their early 20s, even teenagers are now creating blockchain-related cryptocurrencies from NFT drawings, putting their drawings on NFT, on OpenSea, to their cryptocurrency and GameFi and DeFi projects. So it is really a very, very exciting industry to be in. I'm also going to talk about the ETF. And just a couple of weeks ago in the US, the SEC approved the first exchange-traded fund ETF. It's called BITO. It's introduced by a company called ProShares. It's the first ever asset management company that got $1 billion in asset under management in just 2 days. So recent news, as we talked about, is Facebook renaming to Meta. Earlier this year, this Dogecoin. Even I jumped in after hearing Elon Musk talking about it and holding up the puppy dog. At the time, I believe Elon Musk got in less than 1 cent. So I got in around 4 cents, and then it eventually went to 30, 40 cents, or went as high as 70 cents. So it made the whole crypto world, the meme coins, very, very exciting. And then there's up and down, and I'm not going to encourage people to just invest because you really have to make your careful investment decision. You have to really look at every cryptocurrency and really do your own judgment. And as we all know, it's very volatile in the crypto space, so you really shouldn't risk too much. And if you just put in a little bit, and that's your own decision. And so just be wise. Another highlight of this year is in Asia, we saw DBS, Development Bank of Singapore, announced that they are going to offer crypto custody and digital exchange. So you'll be able to buy and sell and trade Bitcoin, ETH, BCH, and so on, Ripple, XRP, using the DBS platform. For many years, cryptocurrency was traded on unregulated exchanges. So we saw Mt. Gox, which was the first crypto exchange, Bitcoin exchange, that really went bust. And it's very difficult because all these centralized exchanges may have problems, may be hacked by outsiders or their internal people. So if you are putting your crypto wealth into a reputable crypto exchange that's backed by government license, that's certainly more trustworthy. So when DBS makes the announcement, it's very, very exciting for the industry. We also saw in China announced its DCEP. So it's the digital yuan, ECNY, that's the new name. And it started with pilot tests in 4 cities, including Shenzhen, Chengdu, Shanghai, and so on. And now I think they are going to really roll out in various phases. So pretty soon, especially with the COVID-19, it's really dirty to hold physical cash, and it's just not healthy for people to pass paper notes around. So I think it's really a good time, and China started this, and I think very soon we're going to see a cashless society. So scanning QR codes Actually, this started a few years ago with Alipay and WeChat payment of Tencent. But now the central bank, the People's Bank of China, will come out with a government-backed digital currency. But it's centralized. It's not like Bitcoin is not a decentralized digital currency. So we saw the SEC in the US, the new SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler, he approved the ETF, Bitcoin Futures ETF, based on CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Here in Hong Kong, Li Ka-shing invested in a company called BAKKT, Backed, which is a crypto asset management company and crypto exchange. And that company is backed by the founders of the Intercontinental Exchange, which is the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange. So all these are good signs. We saw that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency investment really started in the hacker space, and now they are moving gradually to common people and into the hands of the institutional investors. A few months ago, we saw right here in Hong Kong, Sam from FTX got on the cover of Forbes magazine, only 29 years old. He started the company FTX.com only 2 years ago, right here in Hong Kong. And now he's becoming a multi-billionaire. To talk about blockchain, we have to talk about Bitcoin. It is the first cryptocurrency that's on the Bitcoin blockchain. Bitcoin came out from Satoshi Nakamoto's pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody really knows who that person or that team is, but there's a few guesses, and I'll talk about that. So the white paper came out in 2008, in October 31st of 2008. So there's a white paper, and then after that, the source code was released. And on January 3rd of 2009, the Bitcoin blockchain came out. And the first block, the Genesis block, came out on that day. It's designed to be 21 million Bitcoins. This maximum number cannot be changed. And every 4 years, it gets reduced by half. So started on January 3rd of 2009, every 10 minutes, a block is created, and 50 Bitcoins were created or mined by the miners. Why are there Bitcoin miners? What is mining? I'll talk a little bit about this because many people think that the miners are there just to make money. But in fact, the crypto miners, they're there to provide the infrastructure for the blockchain. So if you compare to the physical world, we live in a centralized world, and that's dominated by centralized organizations. For example, US Bank, Bank of America, HSBC, all these banks, if you use their system to make payment, they have an infrastructure, so the company with their shareholders, their investors invest money in the bank, they get the license from the government, and then they hire the CEO and the CTO and the management team and the database administrators to the network administrators to design and roll out the network. So every time when you use the HSBC mobile app to move money, the company is designing the software and managing the software, managing the database, and they're paying for the hardware, paying for the networks. So all the banks, they have to invest millions and millions of dollars to maintain this network, to offer online banking service to you through the internet or through your mobile phone. But if you talk about Bitcoin, there's no investment. There's no major investor. All this guy's pseudonym, Satoshi Nakamoto, he only released the white paper and the source code. It's open source, so anyone can get the open source and become a Bitcoin node and then join the Bitcoin network. So there's no investment. In a real bank, you have the shareholders, the investors, to fund the money for the bank to offer to its infrastructure. But in the Bitcoin blockchain, all these are volunteers. And what is the incentive for them to spend their time, load the software, find the hardware? The hardware, it's a server, and now it's also called a miner, mining gear. But the miner, the server, is there to maintain the blockchain network infrastructure. There's a database Every time when you do a bank transaction, it gets recorded in a database. But that database is maintained in the bank by the management team, from CEO to CTO to some database administrators. And by the order of the government or the chief executive, they can actually alter and change the records. So that's why it's called a centralized database. But Bitcoin is a decentralized database. These volunteers put in their time and effort, software and hardware, and then to maintain this. And in return, as a reward, they receive 50 Bitcoins per 10 minutes, started in 2009, and every 4 years. So after it became 25, and then 4 years later, it became 12.5, and then last year, it's halved again, it's 6.25. So it's deflationary. Bitcoin is counter-inflationary. It is a deflationary. It gets harder and harder. It's there to mimic the real-world gold metal mining. In the blockchain world, Bitcoin world, we all celebrate on every May 22nd. It's called International Bitcoin Pizza Day. So back in 2010, a famous programmer, he's mined many Bitcoin. He's got a few 100,000, and then he spent 10,000 Bitcoin to buy 2 pizzas. So at today's value, today Bitcoin is about 60-some thousand each Bitcoin. So 10,000 Bitcoins will be 600 million. 2 pizza, so each pizza will be a $300 million US pizza. That's a very expensive pizza at today's Bitcoin price, because it's a very rare thing and nobody can change it. And at the maximum number of Bitcoins, it's on a distributed ledger. Unlike in the physical world with the fiat currencies, whether it's Usd or most countries, the government, their chief executive, they can issue orders to print more money. All currencies in the fiat world, they have inflationary effects. So the money is just not worth as much as before. But Bitcoin is the other way around. It gets harder and harder to mine. There's a maximum cap, so that's why it's becoming more and more expensive. We look at how Bitcoin moved from the hacker world in the world of the dark web. It started in the early days, only the hackers, the techies, or those who are doing shady transactions in the dark web. They are using Bitcoin for anonymous transactions. How it gradually evolved and moved to the average people's world and to the institutions world. Just a funny picture here, we see that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said back in 2017 Bitcoin was a fraud. In 2018 he regretted that, and then in 2019 he announced the issuance of JPM coin, which is a stable coin using blockchain technology. We see many institutional investors are moving into this space. The biggest Bitcoin holder nowadays is managed by a company called Grayscale Trust. It's a trust that's registered in Delaware in the US, and it's listed on the stock exchange. So you can buy this using most like E-Trade or Ameritrade, most stock exchange software. You can buy a GBTC and you can buy this. Grayscale, just in Q4 of last year, it received $3 billion of new investment. So investors gave Grayscale $3 billion to buy Grayscale Trust. And in return, Grayscale would then use that money to buy Bitcoin. So this is a company and a trust that's 100% backed by Bitcoin. There's no other business activity. They don't have any other operating costs. They don't have any other R&D. Investors give them money, they receive the money, they buy Bitcoin. Here's a chart. You can see that it's founded in 2013, and by the end of last year, it's already grown into $6 billion under management. So Grayscale currently holds over 600,000 Bitcoins. Around 3% of the total Bitcoin supply is held by Grayscale. By the way, Satoshi Nakamoto, if someone has his password, he would be the biggest Bitcoin holder with about 1 million Bitcoins. Other than that, Grayscale is the biggest Bitcoin holder with 600-some thousand Bitcoins. I mentioned that the US government is actually leading the world in its governance and regulations on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So in the US, the SEC and the CFTC is the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. It manages the issuance of futures, cryptocurrency futures. So the CME currently has a Bitcoin futures product that people can buy and sell Bitcoin contracts, open interest contracts, if you want to bid on the ups and downs of Bitcoin prices. The BITO, as I mentioned earlier, the ETF, the first ETF is based on the Bitcoin futures. Nowadays, we saw in the blockchain industry, who makes most of the money? Here, these people are there right here in front of you. Right now, most of these people who make a lot of money are in the crypto exchanges. And Binance is the world's number one crypto exchange right now. And he's a Chinese guy, Zhao Changpeng, CZ. A few years ago, he appeared on the magazine cover from nobody as a CTO, as a techie to Forbes billionaire list in less than a year, the fastest ever to get into Forbes magazine. So he's still a very young man. And the guy under Binance is Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX. That's his office in Admiralty in Hong Kong. Recently, he announced that he's moving to the Bahamas for regulatory issues. We also have OKEX, that's listed in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. We have Huobi, that's also listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange. BITO, as I mentioned earlier, is listed in the US. So the top exchanges, we can see that the institutional volume is gradually increasing. If you look at this green chart, that's the Coinbase retail and institutional trading volume. Started in 2018, we saw that the light green, that's retail volume, the dark green is institutional volume, and to Q4 of last year, you saw that institutional volume surpassed retail volume. So that means more and more funds, asset management companies, retirement funds, mutual funds, and family offices are allocating some of their investment into cryptocurrency. So maybe they start with 1% or 5%. Right here in Hong Kong, under the SFC, we have many asset management companies under the SFC Type 9 asset management license. And as an asset management company, you can buy cryptocurrency up to 10% of your asset under management. If you want to invest more than 10% of the total AUM, you have to get special permission to get the Type 9 virtual asset management license. And currently there are around 2 or 3. There's Venture Smart, there's a Huobi Asset Management that's got the virtual asset management license under the Hong Kong SFC. Also, the SFC has issued a license for crypto exchanges, which is the Type 7 virtual asset trading platform license. And currently, there's only one company that has that license, that's BC Group, also listed on the exchange as a public listed company. But unfortunately, they only allow professional investors to open the accounts with them. So if you want to trade with them, you have to have more than $8 million liquid assets, Hong Kong dollars liquid assets, in order to open an account with OSL. If you do not have that proof, if you're not a PI, then you can only trade with other exchanges. This is a very famous website called bitcointreasuries.net, and it lists all the publicly listed companies or funds, ETF or trust that are trading or that have invested in Bitcoin. So I mentioned earlier, institutional investors from fund managers to listed companies, they are moving into investing in cryptocurrency because of its counter-inflationary effect of Bitcoin. So many of these companies on this list, they have too much cash in the bank, in their treasury, and they don't know what to do. If they just hold cash, with the inflation, it gets less purchasing power every year. So MicroStrategy is the largest listed company. It used to be a software company. It makes enterprise software. Its CEO decided last year to buy Bitcoin, and it bought a few million dollars worth of Bitcoin, and then it ran out of money. It decided to borrow money, so it issued a convertible bond at 6.2% interest, annual interest. So investors continued to support them. So many investors would invest in MicroStrategy in their bonds, and they would get 6.2% a year. And for MicroStrategy, yeah, their cost of money is 6.2%, but Bitcoin has gone up way above that. Currently, they have 114,000 Bitcoins, as you can see on the right side. Tesla, we all heard about Elon Musk buying $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Currently, Tesla owns 43,000 Bitcoin. And also Square Inc., we have Coinbase. Coinbase holds some 4,000 Bitcoins. Galaxy Digital and Hive Blockchain. I listed Meitu because it's a Hong Kong listed company. Meitu and the investor Cai Wensheng, a good friend. Meitu, the first Hong Kong listed company that announced that the company should buy Bitcoin. And he announced a few months ago, earlier this year, that Meitu had invested something like 500 million Hong Kong dollars worth of Bitcoin. And you can see that it's 941 Bitcoins. Their stock code is 1357, Meitu. Grayscale, as I mentioned earlier, it's the Bitcoin Trust. It currently has 654,000 Bitcoin and so on. I'm going to talk a little bit about stable coins. USDT or Tether and USDC, BUSD, DAI, these are the most famous stable coins. And there's a strong reason for stable coins because most of the crypto exchanges can only do crypto to crypto exchange, crypto to crypto trade. So if you want to exchange fiat money like US dollar or Hong Kong dollar directly into cryptocurrency, it's very difficult. In Hong Kong, in most of the countries, the banks are not very friendly if you tell them that you're going to buy Bitcoin using the bank's transfer. It's not very convenient. So USDT became the number one leading stable coin. And recently, Circle and USDC, you saw that that's Jeremy Allaire's picture. It became the first regulated stable currency. What does it mean to be a stable currency, USDT or USDC? That means someone gives you $1 US dollar. You, the issuer, you give them one bunch of numbers, one token that represents the money. So how do you know that token is backed by adequate cash or adequate assets? So that is the big question. How do you prove these USDT or USDC if they have enough backing? What if all the token holders decided to redeem and return the token and withdraw the money? It's the same with any bank. Most banks will not be able to sustain. And now it caught the attention of the US government, and recently the SEC and the US government have issued a lot of new regulations on cryptocurrencies and especially stable coins. So we have to pay attention to the latest regulations. For example, I mentioned DCEP or ECNY. That is backed by the People's Bank of China. So you don't have to worry. It's backed by the government. But USDT is not backed by any government. You don't know what assets backing it. USDC, I've looked at their backing. Every month they have Grant Thornton, which is one of the top 10 auditors in the world, actually will audit their financial statements, and they will publicize how much US dollar they have in the bank in New York. The few times I've looked at it, the number of US dollars in the bank in New York exceeded their number of tokens. So they are one-to-one backed. I mentioned Hong Kong with STO. STO is very, very exciting. I believe in the future, real estate, gold, securities such as stock, bond, and REIT, real estate investment trust, all these will be traded as a token globally on the STO exchange. So basically, an STO is very similar to an IPO. You need to have certain government approval, certain disclosure. So my friend has a real estate project, it's a hotel. He wants to attract investors to come in and invest. And in return, you can share an annual or monthly dividend. So in the crypto world with the STO, actually you have to go through the same kind of audit and asset appraisal. You need to have independent valuation report for the real estate. And then if you have every month an income, you can dividend out to your token investors. Here I talked about there's one security token called Bcap, Blockchain Capital. It is a VC-backed security token. So basically, investors can participate as if they are an investor in venture capital. And this was issued back in 2017 at $1 per token. The company charges a 2.5% management fee and 25% performance fee, which is quite similar to most of the venture capital firms or private equity firms. Maybe slightly higher because most are 2.20%. This is 2.5, 25. But if you look at it recently, it's traded at $16. So the net asset value of Bcap token is $16. So it's gone up quite a bit. If you wonder what's driving the price to go up from $1 in 2017 to now $16, because they are VC and they have invested in some of the best-known crypto companies such as Coinbase, OpenSea, Circle, Anchorage, Securitize, Harbor, and so on. All these investments into these crypto blockchain projects have gone up in value, so that's why they are security token backed by securities. They have gone up in their NAV. It has not attracted enough attention, such as Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, SHIB. Sometimes I think that people, smart investors, especially in Hong Kong, if you're a licensed broker, licensed asset management, you should always look at the fundamentals. I'm a fundamental investor. I look at whether there's technology behind it or asset behind it. So if it's a security token, you can always look at the auditor's report and see what's the cash, what's the real estate, what's the latest appraisal, what's the latest NAV. So that's the future of STO. I think in the future, we're going to see more and more STOs. It has not attracted enough attention that it deserves. Basically, blockchain and Bitcoin, the technology is completely sound. It's based on asymmetric cryptography. So there's a lot of research papers. If you're interested in math, you can study what 1976 Diffie-Hellman key exchange paper did, or 1978 MIT, Ron Vives, Adi Shamir, and Edelman, the RSA encryption, or 1974 Ralph Merkle, Merkle tree. These are all the technology or the algorithm, the mathematics, the technology behind blockchain and Bitcoin and what makes it work, what makes it the most high-tech currency. If you look at the traditional, you're talking about coins or gold or diamond or physical paper notes, fiat currency, there's serial number, all kinds of watermark technology, but all these are easy stuff and people can fraud, issue their counterfeit currencies. But in Bitcoin, there hasn't been any counterfeit blockchain or Bitcoin. But the only key is that you have to keep your private key safe. If you lose your private key or you give it to someone else, then you don't own it. Every wallet is backed by a public key and a private key, and your private key should be yours. If you lose it, and that property, that virtual asset is locked, is forever lost in the blockchain. So in Bitcoin, it's been estimated that something like 3-4 million Bitcoins are lost because people lose their private keys. It's not like you can go to the bank and show them your password, show them your ID, and recover the funds. But if you're storing it in a centralized exchange, yes, they have KYC. You can bring in your ID card. You can probably talk them to recover the ID for the password for you. So just be very careful with your private key. So that's Satoshi Nakamoto's 2008 paper. It's only 10 pages. I recommend all of you to go through it for leisure reading It's not very difficult to read. It's very, very easy to understand. So the key characteristics of Bitcoin, always remember, it's decentralized. It's a distributed ledger. So unlike with the bank or government record, some government employee or bank employee can go in and alter records. Facebook couldn't keep their database safe. There's been leakage of Facebook, over 70 million Facebook users. Information was lost or sold. Well, if there's money to be made, some database administrator will duplicate the database, the records in the database, and sell it for profit. So all centralized databases cannot be trusted, cannot be safe, because there's always a human behind it, and that's very hard to manage. Blockchain is a distributed ledger. There's only 51% attack. So if you want to change or alter the records, it really takes a huge amount of power to do that. It's not impossible, but you need to control 51% of all the nodes in order to change the blockchain. It's non-repudiable, irrevocable, irreversible. As I said, a Bitcoin transaction cannot be reversed. Okay, once it's 10 minutes into the block. To reverse it, you have to have a huge amount of mining power to do that. And we're talking about billions of dollars of mining power if you want to alter records. And that's economically not possible to do it. And so it's trustless. You don't have to rely on any centralized database, centralized administrator, and so on. But there's a problem, which is the triangular problem of how do you manage the balance among decentralization, security, and performance. All the centralized systems can perform very fast. Visa, Master, they can have tens of thousands or millions of transactions per second. But with Bitcoin, it's like 15, 20 transactions per second, which is much, much slower, but it is decentralized. So that means that transaction records have to be duplicated through the distributed ledger. Security and performance. So if you want to have a high performance, fast system, you have to sacrifice the centralization. This is the SFC website, Securities and Futures Commission of Hong Kong Statement on Regulatory Framework for Virtual Asset Portfolio Management. I said earlier, there's this Type 7 license and Type 9 license for virtual asset trading companies or virtual asset management companies. There's a lot of KYC. So if you're working with a licensed exchange, you are insured. Just like a bank, your deposits are insured. If you're working with an unlicensed exchange, if it gets hacked, you never know, and you may lose your deposit, your crypto assets. Just a little bit on NFT. Non-fungible token started back in 2018 with CryptoKitties, and then now this year it really took off. I'm a big fan of Stephen Curry. He's now into the Crypto Monkey, the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So all these celebrities are investing into crypto punks, crypto pills, and all these. And even kids are, issuing, putting their drawings online and on NFT, on OpenSea, and their parents, relatives can go in and bid at their kids' drawing online. That's very fun. That's why the fuel cost of transfer is getting higher, because the Ethereum blockchain is getting used for NFTs, for USDT tradings. Now, I think just the last few days, Ethereum just hit an all-time high price of $4,600 some US dollars. GameFi is also a new term, although it's been around for a few years. Right here in Hong Kong, we have Animal Cup Brands in Cyberport. An early internet guy, Yat Seal, he's the founder of this company. Now his company, Animal Cup Brands, right here in Hong Kong, are investing into hundreds of GameFi and blockchain and NFT projects. For example, YGG is one of them, CryptoKitties. So in the future, we see that gaming, play to earn. Just earlier this year, there's a company from Vietnam, a project called Axie Infinity, that really took over the world and became the biggest GameFi company. So everyone, thank you again for joining us for this session, the blockchain seminar with Hong Kong Metropolitan University and Hong Kong Blockchain Association. It is really my pleasure to share my brief time and experience in this blockchain industry with you. I'm very excited. This is a 24/7/365 blockchain world. Blockchain never sleeps, and there's very exciting opportunities in this industry